are no fun, no fun, and FDR declines to run. When Eleanor's my day is done, will you still be mine?
Yes, check my mic box. Test. Okay. That'll do. Okay, so can I have a? Do we have consent? Yeah.
We'll start with last Monday, September 28th, consent agenda. Item A, 3427 Sea Ledge Lane, approved as submitted of review after final. Item B, 630 Bath Street, approved with conditions of review after final. Item C, 526 West Anapamu Street, final approval as noted. Item D, 202 East Haley Street, final approval as noted. Item E, 520 East Yananali Street, continued indefinitely to the Planning Commission with comments. And item F, 2623 De La Vina Street, continued 2 weeks. And items were reviewed by Clay Arell and Carol Gross.
Thank you. So do we have, we didn't have a motion to open that week.
I'll make
So,
So moved.
moved by Dawn, second by? Second by Keith. And all those to approve the minutes as read, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. So, do we have another consent?
Yes, consent for today, Monday, August 5th.
Do, do I have to give a motion for that too? Yeah. Motion for that? So today's?
So moved.
So moved by Dawn, second by? Second by Keith. Okay, thanks. Go ahead. Michelle?
Item A, 616 Eucalyptus Avenue, continued indefinitely to consent. Item B, 126 East Haley Street, final approval with conditions. Item C, 140 South Hope, continued indefinitely with comments. Item D, 336 North Milpa Street, a 1-year time extension granted with findings. That's the third and final time extension allowed for that project. Items were reviewed by Gary Mosel.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the minutes as read, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. One abstention in Clay. Thanks you. And that would bring us to announcements, requests by applicants for continuances, withdrawals, etc.
None.
Any announcements of the board? Okay, Chris?
Mr. Chair, I'll be stepping down for item 4.
Item 4. Okay. Thanks very much. Subcommittee reports? Anyone? No? Okay, that brings us to the first item of the day, 3222 State Street. It's a continued item under concept review. Hello? I think if you two can share this mic, that would be great. Hi. Do we have drawings, Michelle?
You were bringing plans since this was continued.
Well, the thing is that we checked with architects and designers, and it was just so, we got estimates, and it was just more money than we could spend at this time.
I think at
And-
this point we just need to reiterate with the board that we really have spent all of the money we have to invest in this project. And, you know, it seems that we've got the community who loves it. Santa Barbara Magazine, you know, Santa Barbara News Press just wrote us articles. We brought those today to show those to you guys. And it's just...
They did an article saying that we were upscaling Upper State Street. And then Santa Barbara Magazine wrote a little blurb, you know, and we just have the community supporting us so much. And right now we're getting into our slow season, and we just don't have the income to support designers to do mock-ups and getting all this extra stuff back.
So I mean, basically what we're asking, I guess, is if you guys can tell us, do we need to take the wood trellis down? Do we need to paint the rail? What do we need to do to move forward? Because we're here trying to comply. And we want to work with you and not, you know, fight with you guys, but we just don't have any more money to spend on this project. We're maxed out, so it's already, you know, the project is done, over with, so, you know, new mirrors in the bathrooms, all those things add up, you know, when you're making changes to an old motel, and we just have spent the max on the budget for this project, so.
We're wondering, should we take down the wood trellis or, you know, we'll paint the railings gray and the windowsills gray. I mean, but we can't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it does cost money to buy more wood, to add more wood features on the building. It does cost money to hire contractors in order to, put that stuff up, and we have no money. So,
Okay, could we see the drawings of the last proposal, and then I'll read the minutes of the last one, and then we'll probably have a small discussion, because what I'm thinking right now is what you've just stated is really your presentation. Would you say that?
Yes.
Am I right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would really urge the board to, I know this isn't your department, but especially the ones that felt that a lot of Upper State Street, I would urge you to read this article, because it specifically states that it is upscaling Upper State Street. This motel used to be a divey rundown motel, and this, is backing us up with that. So
We're not saying that what you have done is
but some people
bad
did
for
say
the
that.
property.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
some people made that point last time.
But
so.
you have to realize that you have done things to your property without going through the process and without getting permits, and you've just decided to do it on your own and run the risk.
Right.
And we're just here on behalf of the public to make sure that everyone does not do things in that fashion,
Right.
because it would be detrimental to the city.
I agree 100%.
Okay. So the motion was a majority of the board felt that the proposed wood trellis element is an improvement to the existing building. However, the board requests the applicant return with a solution to incorporate the proposed decorative wood trellis element at an additional location on the property to provide continuity. Eliminate the portion of the trellis at the gable roof. Return with a different proposal for the color of the window trim at the guardrail on the two-story element to the rear of the property. Resolve the corner condition at the pedestrian entry at the trellis element to resolve the discontinuity. Landscaping, provide an embellished landscape plan that would complement the architecture. Provide a more earth tone color or texture for the concrete planter, or paint it the same color as the exterior plaster. So I have to tell you, as I read the minutes here, I don't necessarily see that there is a lot of expenditure that needed to be made to make a presentation, other than maybe, say, provide another area where you have to put the wood trellis for the continuity.
If we have no
So-
more money to invest in wood, though, how are we supposed to do this?
I said other than having that other area. In other words, picking a color, I don't see that that's a big deal. Resolving the corner condition, and I did have for the record, I did have a discussion with you when you asked for some clarification over the phone on the minutes, that that corner condition could be resolved with a wood element that just turned the corner. And an idea on how you would re-landscape the front. Now, are you saying that it costs too much to delve into these ideas?
Yes, sir. I mean, if you would have seen the landscaping before, there was dead palms there, and we've spent $500 in new agaves and beautiful cacti that are going to eventually mature and get bigger, but these are brand new plants, and it just seems quite ridiculous to pull out $500 worth of beautiful plants to replace them with new plants when we don't have money to do that, and we just did that. Everything that,
I don't think anybody asked you to pull out the plants.
just to move them around. Is that? I guess
did
we're
you
asking
read
for
the-
clarification today on everything, because if you give us a list of things you would like to see done, we'll do it. It will be done this afternoon or tomorrow, but we don't know where to go here because we don't have money to hire contractors or do any of these things. If it's painting a rail, we'll do it. If it's painting the cement planter, we'll paint that. But these things do cost money.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I'd like to make one comment.
Yes.
From my standpoint, it just would have been nice if you had read the minutes and at least tried to address a few of the items instead of come in with nothing and say, we don't have any money to do anything.
Well, the reason we're doing this is because we don't want to make any changes and then come back and present what we've done and then have you guys look at it and say,
You're not supposed to make any changes.
right, well,
You were not.
You
We never
weren't
asked you
supposed
to.
to,
In fact, you're not allowed to.
Thing is just hiring the designers to do the mock-ups. I mean,
Right, because
it was
we-
at least $600 was the lowest estimate.
and we,
I
you
think,
know, we-
excuse me, what Dawn is saying is that you may not have the money to hire a designer or something, but if you had looked at the minutes and you would have at least, hey, picked a color, that we asked you to pick a color and come in and present this, how about that? If you had at least attempted to do something
To
that we
add
had
to the
asked.
planting just a little bit. Nobody ever asked you to rip out all your plants.
No, we thought that we just had to.
No, but he said that that's what he thought.
well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of confusion here.
It doesn't
I mean,
say anything about ripping out the plants,
yeah.
does it?
It doesn't say that. I mean,
Well, I mean, I guess last time we were here, there was just so many things being, suggested.
Sanded.
That it's lost in transition, maybe, it's translation. It's,
Well, from our standpoint, just to finish my thought, is that when an applicant comes in and just basically what you said in your presentation was, we don't have any money, so now what do we need to do? Take everything out? It was kind of a threat, like, okay,
no,
we'll
that's
go
not
back
what
to...
I did not mean it to
Okay.
be a threat at all. I'm just asking, what can we do to move forward? Can we take the wood trellis down? Can we paint the rails? Can we paint the cement planter? Whatever
Okay.
we need to do, we'll do it.
here's
That's what we
if you
wanted you
take
to come
number
back
2,
to us with.
eliminate a portion of the trellis at the roof gable. Are you prepared to do that?
Yeah, we can do that, and we'll be more than happy to take care of that, like I said, this
Okay.
evening, tomorrow, whenever we can get to it.
Do you have a color that you would like to propose for the window trim
The same color.
and at the guardrail?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just do it the same neutral color of the building, the calico rock.
You'd use the same calico rock?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask the board. I'm going to take these comments from you, and then we're going to go through. Okay. So as it is, board, they are proposing that they replace the guardrail color from the yellow to the calico rock. They are going to eliminate the portion of the trellis at the gable roof. Resolve the corner condition at the pedestrian entry at the trellis element to resolve the discontinuity. It reads here, resolve the corner condition at the pedestrian entry at the trellis element to resolve the discontinuity. And I guess what it is the ends of the trellis look like it's just planted onto the wall. And you don't have a solution for that, or you didn't have an idea of what you could
I
do.
mean, like I said, we have touched base with architects and designers. Most architects don't want to even consider dealing with this project because they know that we have no money, and we're trying to get something approved, and it just doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, on the second item of the landscaping, provide a more earth tone color or texture of the concrete planter, or paint it the same color as the exterior plaster. Are you willing to do that?
Yes, sir.
So we could paint it the same color as the exterior plaster. Okay, so what they're looking for is some help with item number 1, which is request the applicant to return with a solution to incorporate the proposed decorative wood trellis element at an additional location on the property to provide continuity. So, and then resolve the corner condition, that's the second one, and provide an embellished landscape plan that would complement the architecture. So if there's, on landscaping, if there's something that we can just tell them to do.
Chris and I have been actually, you're getting a free consultation from both of us. We kind of put together a little plan that I think would really complement, and since you're the agave inn, we're using some friendlier agaves than those with thorns. And so we're kind of put together a little plan for you that if you're willing to just take a look at it and say yes, it probably is going to be about $60 of plants. If you could sort of agree to that kind of thing. We're just trying to help you, and we're just trying to move this along. Is that okay that we're
Yeah, I
working
mean,
on
we're
this?
open to suggestions, but again, I'd like to reiterate that we have no more money to invest. We just spent $500 on plants and
$60.
Okay, you know,
okay, yeah, we can spend more money. It's just like this is it's just seems ridiculous. We're dealing with a wood trellis. It's like either we keep it or get rid of it. You know, I hate to sound like such a jerk when I come in here, but it just, you know, we've enhanced the property. We're making more money for Santa Barbara, and it's like, what's the big deal? You know, it's not pink and purple building work we did. You know.
I think she's giving you the right answer right there.
Okay. Well,
You know, we're trying our best here to help you. I mean, we're not in a position to actually do design work for you, but they're helping you out with it. So
Okay, so this is the little plan we came up with.
great. You want to present it?
Well, I don't know if we really need to spend the time, basically.
No, if you just lay it out here and then you could tell them what you would like them to do and
Okay. And where's the little phone in the front there?
yeah.
So this will just sort of help with the overall facade. If we're looking down on it, and this is the building and this is the sidewalk down here. So we know that that the little curve will be painted in earthen color. What is kind of missing is like playing off on your name and also the two or larger areas. So basically this cactus that you planted here in time will really get too big and too dangerous near the corner. And we really don't see that this is a good plant for the front. If you could find it another home or even put it in a pot that isn't, you know, and use it as sort of a sculptural piece. But this could get very dangerous. So this is the only plant that gets eliminated. Everything stays exactly the way it is. However, in this larger section that is sort of a void, Chris has recommended pencil tree euphorbia. I don't know what the second variety is on that, but that's a succulent that gets tall and thin. So it will fill in that space, but be thin, and it won't interfere with the sign. Now you're the agave in. There are three. There's the type of agave that has very soft, not thornies, which is the agave attenuata, which is those blue or green ones that you see all over town. They're very friendly. And to really cluster two here and then one over here, you could keep that if you want to. Fill in the rest of this area with a succulent type of ground cover called Diamondia. It's a short, very low maintenance, gray, greeny thing that looks really nice. It'll just fill in this area. And then where this was, to introduce a formium, a flax, that will just be a nice corner piece. Very simple, about not even maybe $60. But if you do that, then you're bringing the landscape and playing off on your name and also the bareness of the screen. It's just an idea. We're just trying to help you.
thank you.
So, would you like to do that?
We'll do whatever we need to do to move forward today. So yeah, we'll definitely get rid of those and look into getting these plants.
Okay, so you'll paint the curb the same color as the exterior plaster, and then landscape-wise, this is what you propose.
Are the names of the plants you suggested?
Yeah,
written
they're
on here?
there.
Okay, I just want to ask the board, does anyone have a simple corner condition that they could suggest or would feel comfortable with on the end of the trellis, or not trellis, of the wood structure? I mean, it looks very thin on this end to be able to do anything. On this end, I thought that the first thing they could do is actually put a wider piece of this same colored material so that it gave the edge a thickness. And I would say something like a 2x6 on the end that had that same color going up the edge would give it a little bit more size. I'm not sure what to suggest on the thinner edge here because it's just there's no room to be able to do anything. So just want to throw it out there if anybody has any ideas. Or maybe,
Mr. Chair, I would
yes, Dawn.
be opposed to an end vertical trim piece that came just a little bit proud of the horizontal pieces, but not so big that it looks like it's a terminating wing wall. And if you do a 2x6, I don't know that dimension, so it's hard to say that a 2x6 is the solution, because a 2x6 might mean that there's an 1.5 inch stand up between the horizontal and the pieces standing off. But I would say that a small trim piece that just stood slightly proud, 3/4 of an inch or so from the outside face of those horizontal slats, would be a solution to terminating. And I probably would shy away from making a suggestion on how to handle this exact corner, but that little condition, I don't know how to deal with that unless you extended the vertical piece up and then framed out a box around the piece that you're just trying to keep. And that would be my suggestion for that. And then if that's too expensive, then I don't have any suggestions at all, actually.
Does this edge, you see those battens that are in there, those vertical battens? There isn't one there at the edge? I'm asking. Is there one there at the edge?
I'm sorry.
Because I don't see any. You see that vertical batten?
Vertical one behind it.
Oh yeah, there's not one at the edge.
So these pieces of wood just hang out?
Just extend, out.
Maybe there's it.
But that, like she was saying, especially on this end, the spacing in between the trellis and the wall is, as flat as a 2x4 is. So we're talking, like that much space behind the wood trellis and the wall.
Any thoughts at all? Totally open to any thoughts. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd be prepared to make a motion for a 2-week continuance with the applicant to return, carrying forward all the items except number 1, and that means, of course, that you're going to have to do the drawings if you can't hire somebody to do them. To taking all of the free suggestions that we've given you today and then come back, and it would be carrying over the elimination of the portion of the trellis above the plate. It would be a proposal for the color of the guardrail and the window and door trim, the corner condition with a vertical trim piece as was suggested, and an embellished landscape plan as was suggested today, and an earth tone color for the concrete planter. And that's my motion.
Okay, do you understand what she's telling you? In
So
other
we
words,
basically come back in 2 weeks with the drawings of everything mentioned, yeah.
and we talked about here.
Yeah,
In other words.
I guess I'm just a little confused. Exactly, how do you draw? As far as like color changes and stuff?
You just write the color in.
You put the color on the color board.
Curb to be painted, so
just
and
like
so.
we did with the. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Basically like this, right?
So
Yeah.
the formal drawings that you submitted to the city has to have those things on it.
Okay.
So we have a first for the motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair,
Oh yes, staff.
I just wanted to address public comment, a letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Okay, thanks. And there's no one in public to comment also. So, do it.
Second the motion.
Second by Keith. So we have first and second. Under discussion, anyone? No. All those in favor of the motion as read, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries.
I'm abstaining just because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
I'm abstaining as well.
So it's an abstention by 2. Last question. Do you understand what you have to do?
Yes, sir.
And
Can I
are
write
you
it down?
comfortable with it? Or are you, in other
I-
words, we wouldn't like you to be back here with the same presentation that you made today.
Yeah, I guess we were just scared away because the first time that we came in with the drawing that we had done of the site plan that wasn't acceptable. But as long as present will be acceptable as far as when we come back, then I'm comfortable with it. I mean, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
If I can just add one more comment. What we're asking you to do is you to provide drawings and don't do any work on the property, because it'd be horrible if you undid a whole bunch of things that you liked and then you brought photographs and we said, you know what, that was not the right direction. The goal is to do it on paper first, and then once the board is okay with it, then you can move forward and do it in reality.
Okay.
Drawings of the landscaping and
You can get a copy of the last minutes now that they're ratified, and it's written down on there. But you were taking notes today when we were talking to you and giving you advice, right?
On the
On everything
on
else?
the items.
On the items?
I'm writing down drawings.
Okay, we're not going to repeat them again, but you can get them from
Tomorrow
Kathy.
or later this evening, this meeting will be available online. You just go to the city website and follow all the different links. It takes like 1 or 2 hours at the end of the meeting for it to get posted online, and then you can just go back and you can listen to what we just were talking about.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Okay. Well, thank
Are
you.
you
I
okay?
apologize if I came off as a jerk. Again, I'm not trying to fight with you guys. So,
Can we
yeah,
take this?
okay.
Take this.
Thank you. Okay. Item 2, 903 West Mission Street.
We're early. Are you guys ready? Even though we're early? Oh, can we take this item?
902 West Mission.
The owner wasn't as early as us, but should be happy if he would have come early.
It's a concept review, new item, public hearing. We can go ahead. Thanks. So would you like to come here and make a presentation? Or
Sure.
are you waiting?
No, we'll
Okay.
go. Yeah.
So if you just state your name for the record, and then you can start your presentation.
Okay. My name is Mark Perry. I'm with Mark Perry Architect, the architect for the project. The project is basically the putting on a second dwelling unit on a R2 lot. What we're having to do is demolish an existing non-conforming garage.
This is your location here?
That is the location.
Modoc, Robbins, Fairway, San Pasqual. Trying to figure out where I am here.
It's on the west side.
Yeah, that's the 101. So
You're on the west side.
Oh, so this is okay. Yeah. Okay, got it. Right. Got it. Okay. I got it. Thanks.
Okay. So yeah, it's we're trying to provide a second dwelling unit for the property owner's mother. She would like the property owner's mother to come and help with the raising of her 2 young children. So the existing non-conforming garage would be demolished, and we'd be providing a new 3-car garage in its place with the dwelling unit above. That second dwelling unit is approximately 500 square feet.
It's 550 or something.
Yeah. A small unit. 555 square feet.
Kind of present the photographs of your site and
These photographs are of the adjacent site. We took these photographs really just to give a flavor for the existing styles in and around the
you
property.
don't have one for the site?
We do have ones for the site. They are. Where are our site photographs? Oh, at the end. Site photographs. The last. Oh, here we go. So this is, we're looking at the south side of Gillespie Street. Tara, help me out. Is this?
That's us.
That is the property. Yeah.
The garage.
And that is the existing garage. And that would be the house to the east, correct? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, east.
Yeah. And then this is looking directly across Mission
Yeah.
Street. No,
this
this is looking at it from Mission Street. So that is the house
That is
there.
the house?
Yep. It's right at the corner of Mission and Gillespie.
Okay.
And then
That's the other side of
that is looking across the street from Gillespie, and this is looking across the street from Mission. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Quite a mix of stuff in there.
Yeah. So I guess the reasons why we're here is, we're having to go through a modification to the open yard space, and I guess that's kind of just jumping to the main issue of why we're here. But I guess we want to point out right away is that the lot, being a corner lot, and some of the constraints associated with that of where the existing building is located, we couldn't use this area back here as any of the open yard space because it's not 10 feet. And because it's a corner lot, we couldn't use the yard that was out here for any of the open yard space. Trying to make the owner's dreams come true while still minimizing costs, i.e. not demolish the entire existing house. What we're coming up with is going to the proposed site plan now is we are showing the 2 areas of open yard space, but we're not coming up with the entire 600 square feet. We're coming up with 537, so we're shy by 63 square feet, and that's what the modification is for. But going back and describing the project, we're trying. The existing house separated by a wood deck. We've got our non-conforming garage. That non-conforming garage is non-conforming because the interior area is not compliant. But the existing house is just a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, and she's got 2 children, and she'd like her mother to live with her to help raise her family. So she just needs some more space in there. So the proposed floor plans look as this. This is the first floor plan. So on the first floor, we'd be showing kind of a connection between this new conforming garage and the existing house, but we do have, this is a raised patio area, a raised deck area. And we're just connecting there. We're having the entry to the existing kitchen. We're changing the entryway to the front of the house a bit. Before it came off of here, we're coming directly off of Mission, because we're now creating this area, if you recall, in the proposed site plan as part of the open yard space. The second dwelling unit is accessed off of exterior stairs, which rise up the back of that garage area into the second floor, small kind of a studio apartment with its own bath. It has a deck outside, which is intended to break up the mass between the existing house and this new construction. We have now our proposed or existing and proposed elevations. So we always show the existing and the proposed in relationship to each other. So we're looking at the east elevation here, which would be facing the neighbor. Right now, it just has an existing garage that would be demolished. We'd be presenting that facade. We're breaking up the mass there with a lower roof form. This is then the west elevation, what faces Mission. And right now what faces Mission is the entryway is a little notched off the side there, which actually faces Gillespie, but we'd be showing it directly accessing Mission Street. And then you can see behind it would be the new dwelling unit. The south elevation, which faces the neighbors directly, the existing right now is just the garage with this area in between. It's where the new dwelling unit above the garage would be located, and you're just seeing the exterior stairs come up to the door, and that's the deck area, which is intended to break up the mass between the existing and the proposed. The north elevation, again, the existing, just showing the existing garage in the house. The proposed is the dwelling unit above the garage. We're trying to keep to a more human scale by having 3 garage doors as opposed to a 2-in-1. We're hoping that that kind of breaks up the mass and keeps it a little bit more down in scale. Again, you see that lower roof form coming up there, and then the break in between the 2 masses. Some other notable points that we're, viewing it as reflecting towards the street as opposed to the neighbor's sides. So the majority of the windows are facing towards Mission Street as opposed to the other neighboring properties. And skylights are only on the rear roof only, so we're trying to keep the street elevation clean. The roof line, we're trying to keep the slopes consistent with what the other properties, the other forms in the neighborhood are. And the garage doors, we're proposing to have glass panels in order to, again, to try and minimize the massiveness on that elevation. I guess some other points too. We do have adequate usable. Oh, what do we want? We wanted to bring up the point that we have a lot more private outdoor living area. If I can go back to the site plan and point out here. These areas out here are our private outdoor living space, and what we're proposing, we've got, for the second unit, we've got 115. The required was how much?
Sure. 80 or something. The required was 60.
60?
60 versus 115 and 84 versus 238.
Okay. So this area was only required 60, and this was 80.
84?
84. And we're proposing 238. So, again, we had all this area here. We couldn't use it for our outdoor open yard space, but we can provide it for or show it for the private outdoor living space. So it is a good thing there.
Okay.
Are there other points that we missed?
I don't know, unless you want to get a read on the materials and so forth.
Well, that is, I guess coming out of,
They started early. Okay.
This is the owner, Heidi Ferguson.
Hi.
Hello.
I was just going over the project, describing the
I'll catch up.
Okay. And I guess, coming out of here, we'd want to get comments and get more comments on proposed styles, materials, and colors. We are proposing a kind of a stucco finish at the base level with a metal siding at the top, but we could go with stucco at the base and the metal above with metal roof. We want to replace all of the roof forms on both the existing and the proposed with a metal roofing. Yeah.
This is board and bat here, and you're saying metal.
Yeah, we are saying board and bat, but
What's this on the front?
Well, no, this is on the south or the east elevation. It says board and bat here.
Oh, that might be board. Yeah, that might be. This was going to be the cinder block, and that was going to be board and bat.
As opposed to metal siding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, it's board and bat. I'm sorry.
And then a metal roof.
An eclectic use of materials.
Yeah, is that it? Anything you want to say?
I know that if I've missed anything.
I think that was most of what we wanted to put out there, and then we can take your questions and address whatever concerns.
Okay, I'll open it up to the board for questions. Keith, any questions right now?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just one quick question. You're demolishing the existing front porch. Is that primarily to meet the open space requirement?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Personally, she
But
doesn't
it's
like
also
the roof line
really
there
ugly.
anyway.
Oh, there we
So
go.
there's his reason and my reason.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Gary?
No question.
Dawn?
No question.
Okay. Just before, has everyone seen the neighborhood photos? Anyone would like to see them? Okay. Paul, you had any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have one question. Have you folks met with the city staff and
To see if staff would support the requested modification, and what was their response?
We met it with them many times and had, many occasions. It hasn't been, we realize that city staff is not supporting this. The reason for that, it's somewhat of a challenge. This lot, zoned R2, is only 5,000 square feet, smaller than what typically the R2 lots are. Complicating that issue is the fact that it's a corner lot, which means that the setbacks are different. We're actually dealing with 2 front yards on this property. The location of the house, where it sits. Again, if the house were scooted over 15 inches, we could have all of our outdoor
Open yard space.
our outdoor open yard space, and we could, we probably wouldn't have to be here. So the uniqueness of this site, of the property, was one that we wrestled with for quite a number of months and quite a number of telephone calls and meetings with Roxanne. We realized that yes, they're not supporting it because they viewed that they see this property, these R2s, wanting to have a second dwelling unit on it, has been already given kind of a lot of exceptions. So they weren't going to just outright grant us that modification. We feel though that this okay.
Any others, Paul? Clay?
Yeah, I have a question. Can we turn to the floor plan?
Proposed?
Yeah. I've noticed there's 2 instances where we have these really large 48-inch doors. Is there a particular reason for that?
Is that one where we would
Be able to get furniture.
yeah,
up there
furniture
without
moving
having
in and out, yeah.
Is that like a regular thing that's happening?
I think it was just
Like
something.
a furniture dealer or something?
No,
Moving or-
No, it's just that going
curious.
next to our neighbor's property. I know what kind of foliage she wants there. So instead of trying to squeeze it past the garage and then up the stairs, it's easier to go straight through the garage and then up the stairs. And in the front, I already have a big picture window up there, and I would like a wider door with 2 side doors,
Side lights. Yeah.
so that the hole's kind of already there. That's big, so.
My other question is, if you go to the elevations, the one that shows the back
South,
here.
yeah.
I don't understand what I'm looking at here in elevation. I see these lines coming through here.
Those lines are.
I think those should have been dashed.
yeah.
That was a graphic error.
That's where
there's
the
a
fire.
chimney there right now.
Yeah, the fireplace
And
chimney
the
got
fireplace
removed.
going away.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then,
it should be dashed.
is this a window?
Yes, that's the garden window above.
It's like a pop-out garden window at the kitchen.
Okay. And this is another window of a different type
Yeah.
Yes.
style?
Yeah.
And which is new and which... So these are new and these are existing here, right?
Right.
These three...
Well, yeah, you see, so yeah,
I got it.
Yeah, existing, and those 3 would be the new.
And then next page, these are bedroom windows? Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Carol?
So on L, on just one,
Sorry.
on page 1.
Page 1.
So I just need just an explanation in your thinking for me to understand. Part of the project is you're widening the curb cut, so you're going from existing 7.9 to 23. And I know that the garage, changes, but this is a very wide curb cut. It's not necessary for the whole length or the whole width of the garage to have this opening. 14 feet would be fine. So what is the
Actually,
explanation
we've had a
of
lot
that?
of discussions with the transportation department. So Terry, why don't you?
Actually, transportation has templates that you have to apply to show how you're going to get in and out of the garage with a foot of clearance on either side of the vehicle.
So
and that was about the minimum
this-
that we could
yeah.
get there.
For the curb cut?
Are they okay with that curb cut size? I think is what Carol's asking.
Yeah, I'm actually
Yeah.
not believing your explanation because a 23-foot curb cut is extraordinarily
It is. No, it is
wide.
wide. And
Well, that was what we heard from Chelsea, was that would probably be okay, and
She said that
they
would probably
review
be
it
okay.
She said that they would review it during architectural review, that it would probably be okay, and our other alternative really is to have one larger garage door and one smaller one, and that would allow us to make the curb cut a couple feet smaller, but we just thought as far as the massing and the presentation of the garage to the street, that it would be better
Yeah, I was
to
shooting for 3
break up
doors
with the
instead
mass
of
with the
2 doors and 1
three
door to
doors.
balance the house, or to balance that part of the house. And also, our driveway now, I ruined 2 tires because Mission Street's here and our driveway's here, and it's a fast street, and as soon as you pull into my driveway, somebody's right on you, and the curb are out here, and literally everybody that pulls in my driveway just dings their tires. I mean, there's no, you crunch when you leave. So aesthetically, I wanted 3 doors. If I have to go to 2 to 1 to make the curb cut narrower, that's fine. I just thought the house would look better for 3, and to get 3 and do the turnaround, that took Tara out.
And so really, we've been trying to get as minimum a curb cut as possible, but from our discussions with transportation, this has been what we've been pushed towards when we propose a 3-car garage.
And we'll continue to speak with them about that. I mean,
Okay, thank you.
they said they would review it when you
Chris?
guys looked at
You
it.
finished? Carl? Chris? No questions.
I have one more question that was
Dawn?
prompted to me by
Dawn? Go ahead.
when you were talking about the modification and that staff doesn't seem to be supporting it. Where does that leave you? If staff isn't going to support it, are you just expecting to get a denial at show and then go on an appeal to
Supreme Court. No.
the city
It's
council?
always been, as an architect, I always view this as, yes, we want staff to give us support, and staff really has to apply their current ordinance to it. But, I always think that we have to come here and make our case for what is a modification. We're asking for the city to say, okay, we see a uniqueness in this situation, and a modification, variance, whatever the jurisdiction calls the process, should be awarded this project. So, I almost think that for that process, you kind of like need your day in court, need to make the presentation towards it to show the
Even though
uniqueness.
they've already said they're not going to support it? Because
Okay,
it's really not up to us. It's for us, it's going to be an issue probably that there's no aesthetic impact to where you want to put your open yard. That's how we've dealt with these in the past. It won't be us to make a recommendation that would change their minds. So I just make sure that you guys are all aware that if staff if they've already said they can't support it, that it.
Believe you, we went around with this line.
But because they can't give me a reason why they won't support it.
No, they just did.
Yeah,
Well-
it's again. I do think that yes, we've heard that and we acknowledge it and we totally understand. But it's I believe that.
Okay, it's okay.
We still feel
We want
You want your day in
we feel
court.
that the spirit of the
Yes,
of the
and
rules
Okay, maybe
Okay.
our
Okay.
comments might help you. We'll see.
Well, but again,
Okay.
on that, if we just keep in mind that it's.
We need a wrap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks
So,
for answering the question.
Just, I'd like to see if anyone in the public would like to comment. Seeing no one, I'd bring it back to staff.
There's just one letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thanks very much, and then we'll bring it back to the board for comments.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry?
Mr. Chair, let me just interrupt real briefly. Also, I don't know where the board's going with this yet. I just wanted to point out, if the board collectively feels it's ready to go forward to the staff hearing officer, then you'd also want to include in your motion the compatibility analysis findings. If you want it to come back to the board first, then you'll deal with that at a later date.
Okay, I don't have any questions myself, but before we get into comments, just want the board to understand what we have a project here that staff is not supporting at this point.
and it looks like they have issues with the modification, and they have maybe some issues with transportation also. Okay.
Well, no, we not have heard any issues with the
Not with
transportation. No, it's just with the
So transportation does not rule on the width of your curb cut?
Well, they do, but they
told them that they would support it.
yeah, that they've given us the green light
Chelsea
on. Yeah.
apparently is saying that she'll support it. So there's no issue that
just
we
the
know
mod.
of for transportation.
It's just the modification, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So bring it back to Keith with comments. Comments now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Regarding the modification, I guess I'm sympathetic to the existing site condition and the desire and allowance for a second residential unit. So I think that unto itself, I would be sympathetic to a modification given the existing site configuration. However, I do have some other comments regarding the site planning and architecture. Particularly, I think from a site planning standpoint, I would look to have a more visible and prominent entry to the second unit. I mean, right now it's buried at the back corner, and you'd have to circulate through the adjacent unit's private open space to get to it. So it seems like that the entry should be something that would be visible from Gillespie and accessible there on a dedicated pedestrian path. So that would be one thing. I would hope that transportation could allow you to have a smaller curb cut than 23 feet. I would also want to see the amount of paving broken up with some sort of planting so that perhaps you just have drive strips that go into the garage, something like that. So that's sort of the site planning comments. Regarding the architecture, in my mind, it seems to get down to either working with the existing architectural kind of style and design of the house, or giving it a completely new kind of look. And it looks like you've kind of gone more towards the latter, but maybe not quite all the way. So I would suggest taking that final step and specifically either taking the cladding and the design of the existing house and carrying it to the addition, or vice versa, having the entire house kind of read as a uniform design. Right now it's sort of half and half. Also, just kind of massing wise, it looks like the addition is sort of kind of overwhelming the house at the moment. So I would encourage you to kind of study that relationship and maybe try to integrate them more. I know you've tried to have this separation to mediate those two, but I think that's too small to do that. So you might look at the opposite approach and maybe integrating the two. And again, if it's all one uniform design, that might work. And then I guess the last comment is just I find the front porch kind of curious. It's kind of too small to really be usable, and just architecturally it's a little awkward. It would be nice if the existing porch could somehow be allowed towards your usable or your open space requirement, and you could integrate maybe a larger porch element to the design. But right now it seems like it's kind of a little too diminutive in the scale of things. So those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Keith. Gary.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I think that this project is not really headed in the right direction at all. The site planning is not neighborhood friendly, with the porch, with the entry being in the back. The screened-in porch is not neighborhood friendly. I don't think it's compatible with the neighborhood. Now, I'm going to hit hard with that. The original house has charming character, has character elements on it, and so does the entire neighborhood. It's a walkable neighborhood. It has some very charming architectural styles in that entire Gillespie neighborhood right there. And the direction that you're going with CMU and screened walls and tin roofs and skylights are all points on our design guidelines not to go towards the character of this house. And this is on a corner lot, and it needs to look good, and it needs to be compatible. And I don't feel the project that you're proposing right here is anywhere near compatible for this neighborhood. It has no character that is redeeming with any other house in that neighborhood, and I just feel it's headed the wrong way. And as where this is headed today, I would move for a denial.
Thanks, Gary. Dawn?
Let's see. Where do I start? I agree with Keith that the entrance to the second unit needs to be more prominent and ceremonial and not just access through the back of the property. I think that was a really good comment. And I normally don't agree with Gary, but with regards to compatibility, I can't make that bridge. I'd like you to look closely at the design inspiration that you chose and where you got that from. Because what I'm seeing is a lot of materials that don't seem to be working all well together. It doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't, but right now, just if your direction was to put all these materials together, then your charge as the architect is to make them all work. I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying that right now I'm seeing the square CMU, which is kind of a 70s look. I'm seeing the board and bat, which is kind of more of a barn cottage look. Then the metal roof, which is more of a contemporary. And then you've got the stucco that was more traditional for the neighborhood. And to me, it's just not coming together. Part of it might be the way you're presenting it. When you show details like a screen porch that looks like it's framed out of 2x4s here. And that's where you come in as the architect and say, how do I take all these materials or take this program that the client wants and put it all together in something that looks fabulous? And with all those materials, it might make it a little more difficult to come together. But I do think that I disagree with whoever said that the existing house was ugly, because I think the existing house is very charming. And it may not be the direction you want to go. You might want to go into a completely different genre of styling, but that means that it has to be cohesive as that. It can't, you were saying it's very eclectic, but it's not cohesive enough. I also think that you're putting basically a big 2-story gable roof over a 3-car garage, and the little tiny 1-story roof that comes up that you were saying breaks up the roof line. It's really just gratuitous. It doesn't do anything. Nobody's even going to see that little tiny roof on the side. That you're going to have to look a little deeper into breaking up the massing, because this neighborhood, there probably are some bad examples of massing in the neighborhood that do that have added 2-story elements that are a single gable, but they're not the good ones in the neighborhood. They're the ones that slip through. And the ones that we're going to look to are going to be the ones that we're sensitive to breaking up of the roof lines and providing a hierarchy and a breakup of the massing that it doesn't necessarily take the easiest approach of putting a box with a gable roof on the top of it. I think that's pretty much it. It's just it's not coming together, the materials and the styling, everything, the massing.
Okay. Paul, thanks, Dawn.
I'm basically going to agree with
what the comments were, that I can't support the project the way it's being presented. What I'll say is that the existing house has a certain type of architectural character or style, and it might not be to your liking. So the house that you're going to be proposing has to be equal in its cutesiness and its appropriateness to the neighborhood. The easiest solution is to do your addition following the same vernacular that's there. But if that's not something you like, then the addition that's being proposed has to have the same cute, charm-giving elements that make that house look cute in a different style of architecture, which is your job, but it's got to look like it belongs in the neighborhood, which is a walkable neighborhood, which is a very quaint neighborhood. This is not near a freeway or not near an urban, industrial area or commercial. I mean, it's in a residential neighborhood. I also have a hard time. I didn't study too much about the mod, but if the staff is not supportive of the mod, you have to have a very, very strong reason why you believe you should have it. And it has to be a compelling reason, like there's a historical redwood tree that's preventing you from having this. If you don't have a strong reason, I mean, having 2 side yard setbacks or 2 front yard setbacks is a strong reason, but there's a lot of lots that have that same condition. So you've got a hard road requesting a mod if staff's not behind you on it.
Thanks, Paul. Clay?
Mr. Chair.
Even if staff gets behind you doesn't mean you're guaranteed anything. So I'll start off by saying that. I will address my feelings on the modification, though. First, I think a corner lot is burdened already with 2 front yards. And you actually have quite a bit of room on your interior lot, more so than most other properties. And so you do have an opportunity to pick up that square footage in the back. But my personal viewpoint is I think corner lots should be given a little bit of leeway. If you were doing a full 2-story building across the whole lot, setback to setback, and you were asking for a mod for 0 open yard space, then I would probably rethink my statement. But you're not, and you're really trying to work with the site. Granted, there are some site planning issues, I think, as well. I agree with what Keith was saying. But I think it's a mistake of our city to suggest that this isn't usable outdoor open space. Personally, I think it's crazy. Because it is. And it's completely usable. And I can't remember the number, 237 and 300. So you're 63 feet shy of it. You're 10% shy of the requirement. But you don't get to use that, and you don't get to use some other things. So from that standpoint, I don't have an issue with the mod. I can't approve it, and I can't grant you anything other than my opinion. And I feel that I feel like a modification request on something like this could be supported. I'll leave it at that. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the other issues. One of the things that Keith said I felt really strongly about was how you get up to that second level. And one of the things we're charged with in condo developments in this town, and this isn't a condo development right now, but somebody could do that later, is you need to provide wayfinding to get to the second unit. Mm-hmm. That's not happening on this project yet. And so I think that that's a very important element that we need to add into this project, is how you know where the second unit is and how to get there. It's obvious that your intended use now is what it is, but down the road you never know what's going to happen. I think I agree with the comment about the style and the architecture, what Don was saying about how there's a lot of different ideas, but they're not quite all meshing yet. I disagree with some members of the board who think it's completely inappropriate, or that it should be the charming house that it is today. I'm fine with changing styles, and I think that's what makes neighborhoods unique, is when they have different styles of buildings going on. Otherwise, we go back to 50s tract homes for the military. That being said, though, I think that the height of the second-story element over the garage, I think there's a 10-foot plate height on the garage. I think that could be brought down. I think you can bring that scale of that building down. I think it's a little too massive with the pitch and the plate height on the lower floor. Stylistically, I think trying to meld all these things together it's really the architect's job, like Don's saying, and I think it's not there for me. And I'm not going to suggest a solution, but I think if you work with it a little bit more and study a little bit more, it's going to tell you some more information. My other comment was the front porch. I'm having the same kind of feelings. It's a very tight space. The door swings into the porch from outside, so it seems like it's not that functional, excuse me. And the way it's detailed in the drawings, it's hard to really understand the aesthetic of it and what we're really trying to convey there. I think there's a missed opportunity along Gillespie where there's two small little windows in those bedrooms. I think that I know that there's a privacy issue, so I can respect that, but I think with some landscaping or something and some nicer window treatment, that could be a really nice elevation to the street. I think that's pretty much all my comments.
Thanks. Carol?
I could support the mod, but in my mind, when an applicant is asking for a mod, that's a special permission. And there has to be some kind of mitigation that you're doing something to improve the neighborhood. And what I see is that you're creating this fence right along the property line, and you're really not providing anything aesthetic that is really helping the neighborhood. And as far as examples of properties that are going through this kind of transition, we're supposed to really look at the better examples in the neighborhood. And I'm just going to, could you turn to page 2? I think it's just better that I... So what I'm looking at is I'm kind of, surveying the neighborhood here. And you're introducing what you're calling a wire fence on this corner lot. And right here we have, okay, this is a good example. This looks like it might be a corner lot. This is a corner lot. So you're really imitating something that a neighbor has done, which is you're just doing the wire fence along the property line just like this, opposed to, which I think is sort of one of the worst examples in the neighborhood. This doesn't have any of the charm, any of the openness, any of the community, opposed to a corner lot that doesn't have that, and it has landscaping, and there's a lot of tying in with more of the charming elements of the neighborhood. So just by looking at this picture, I could really get a visual of what this corner is going to somewhat... It says 3-foot wire fence, so whatever that is.
It wouldn't be chain.
But the better example in the neighborhood is your picket fence, your wooden fence, which is the better example in the neighborhood. So what my point is to look at the charm-giving elements that exist in the neighborhood that makes the neighborhood a desirable place to be, instead of looking at the worst material and saying that's what we're proposing. And I'm really not in favor, well, I mean, then you just sort of see what you've done with the entry off of this street. You're fenced in, so you're really turning sort of a blind backside really to the community. And then this tiny little entrance, which isn't really that welcoming. And then comparing that to this very wide curb cut. There's a picture here of a residence that does have a very wide curb cut. And when I look at this, to me, this is out of proportion because that curb cut in that driveway is really half, almost half, of the entire frontage of that. And when I look at that, I see 2 street trees. I see this, and then I see this void. And this, I think, is something to be avoided. I do not look at this and say this is the best example in the neighborhood. I look at this and say, is there a way of avoiding this? Because this does not provide the charming aspects of the neighborhood. So my colleagues have made their architectural comments, so I'm just really focusing on the site plan. But again, I could support that mod if the project is showing mitigation, if you're going if you're really putting the energy into it and saying we really want to improve and knit ourselves back into the community in the highest examples in the neighborhood, then I could support it. But I can't support it with what you're showing us now.
Okay. Thanks, Carol. Chris?
Well, I really don't have much additional to add. I agree with, there are a lot of good comments, and so I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to add anything.
All right, and I think that I think you have a hard task before you, and I'm going to start. I'm going to leave the mod till last, but I think that what you have trying to get the second unit is definitely a good thing in an R2 zone. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that there are a lot of issues that when you attack the project, I think you have to come at it with a whole different mentality. This is my feeling, because what we're getting here is that I think your planning needs work. I think the fact that you are bringing in what would be considered for this neighborhood alien finishes or materials. It's not necessarily that those materials are bad, but when you bring in elements like metal roofing and skylights that are viewed and CMU block that exposed joints, etc., you have to bring it in such a way that you have to be extra good at doing it, that it creates a charm that is over and above what that material would generally show, so that you bring the charm to the neighborhood. Because that material by itself does not elicit the charm that this single-family residence neighborhood has. So if you know you're going to bring something like that in, the onus is on you to go above board with style, detailing, and character to bring that material in the charm. That's not here. That's not here. It almost looks like that material is very industrial in nature. It does not belong in the neighborhood. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't use it and use it well, but the way that you have used it here and presented it, it does not belong here. And I think that anybody in this neighborhood looking at that would tell you that. So the other thing I think is that I think the other board members alluded to it too, is you have kind of saved a little bit of one style and then you've gone in the other style. And I don't think that's serving you well. I think you have to decide where you're falling, and then you have to make the whole project fall into that style that you have chosen, and then make that style work for the whole project. I think the entrance is another main thing. You have to have a major entrance coming into the second unit that is a visible and clear entrance. This is not a clear entrance to the unit. Again, I think that if you are asking for a modification, and I have to say that any lot that's on a corner lot is burdened a lot, and I would always look sympathetically on that situation. However, again, anyone coming in for a mod, again, has to have a project that your presentation must prove that you can, with that mod, you can bring back the quality to the neighborhood by your presentation and what you're hoping to do. Again, with this presentation that you have made here, it is going in the wrong direction. It's not doing that. So I wouldn't even contemplate giving or looking at the mod or how it affects the mod, because the project has not met that threshold. See what I'm saying?
I do.
I think the screened porch that you have there, the fact that you're screening it, takes away that openness or the inviting aspect. As far as this neighborhood is concerned, we don't see a lot of screen porches around. It adds mass to the building. So if you're wanting to have a screen porch, you have to have that much more room to be able to do that successfully, or the design has to be over and above board that it can overlook that. I don't think your project does that at the moment. Again, the fencing, I think that was a very good point. I think Carol's point with the big hardscape and the driveway and looking at this picture was a very good point to make. You have to overcome these things that you feel you have to have as opposed to just saying I have to have them because that's that's the way it's going to work. That won't work. You really have to overcome the difficulties by making it that much better and showing that this is what I have to have, but this is what we're going to do to really defeat that bad aspect of it. You know what I mean? And so the project just isn't meeting there, and I have to say that it's not even at the level where I would want to comment on little things to move it ahead. I think you have to go back to the drawing board and you have to replan. You have to look at your approach to the neighborhood. You have to look at the materials you're going to use. You have to look at the style. I've just written all of them down here. I'm looking at style, massing, planning, materials, compatibility with neighborhoods, entries, hardscape, and it just goes on and on. So instead of just picking those things out, I think you really have to take a serious look at the project and see where you're coming back from. That's my feeling.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can I offer rebuttal now to all the...
Short, please.
Okay. I do want to
Very
go...
short.
Okay, short. The access, it is off the back there, but we could provide, the wayfinding or just some identity to it. We struggled with trying to get it in the front here, but again...
We'll
the
leave that for
constraints-
you to come back with
so
a
I
better
do-
proposal.
The existing entrance was off of Gillespie for a while.
Okay, just now. I think your rebuttal, we're not here to defend what you proposed. What you proposed already, we've had comments on. Trying to defend it is not going to work. What you have to do is come back with a new proposal, and then your presentation would say how you have addressed those. Because trying to defend the things that you have here now, we've told you they're not working.
Okay. Well,
So-
it just, my take on the process through it, I've always tell all of my clients that I don't ever view this as some sort of adversarial sort of thing. I think we come through, and it's teamwork that we come and we listen to the jurisdictions and listen to what people have, and we'll come back. It's a process. I don't ever view this, but I guess I do think that everyone needs to come to the table with a clear understanding of what it is. I mean, on this point, just go back there. We tried at one point with Roxanne to say that if Gillespie was viewed, the front door faced Gillespie, and for a while there, they were debating whether or not then, if the front door faces Gillespie, we could call the front of the house this street, and we wouldn't be here, right?
Yeah.
That would have been it. But they debated for a while, and they came back and said, well, although your front door faces Gillespie, we're still going to say the front of the house faces Mission. So the whole setback issue and things. So, I just want it has been a process to get to this point.
I understand.
Yeah.
But you have two front yard setbacks. Where the
We
door
do.
faces doesn't matter with regards to your modification.
It does with regards to the open space because the secondary setback, you can't use 10 feet worth of the front yard. The primary setback, you can't use 15. So it does make a difference, actually, as far as the site plan goes.
Okay.
We've been on.
All right. I'm open for a motion from anyone on this project. This would be indefinite continuance back to full board. I suppose you'd want to come back here, or?
Yes. It's the process.
Get cute back into it.
Okay. I'll try to draft something then. So this would be indefinite continuance back to full board. Starting with the following comments. The board is appreciative of the burden placed on the project by having two front yard setbacks, and the need of the client to have a second unit, and to maintain as much of the existing residence as possible for cost considerations. However, the board feels that this project is moving in the wrong direction and needs a whole. I would say it needs, and it needs a revised. The board feels that the project is moving in the wrong direction and would like to see revisions that would include the following. New planning to allow for secondary entrance that is more articulated and compatibility to the neighborhood. And would like to, the board feels that the project needs to be reassessed and designed by the applicant for style, massing, material choices, compatibility elements, and neighborhood charm, street presence. Boy, it's so hard to. And would would prefer that the applicant look at the whole project and its design as opposed to a reworking of the presentation made here today. Okay. Right. So that would be it. Would anyone like to either amend it or?
I'll second the motion.
The second would be the first.
I'm sorry. I'll
first
the motion, but
would you like to amend it or?
I just think that the biggest issue, architecturally speaking, is the issue of an overall style compatibility, whatever that is that you choose. So
with the neighborhood, or
yes, but okay. I'm just commenting on your. I'm going to make the motion. So as long as that was in there, and I think it was when you said that the applicant was going in the wrong direction with regards to style. So I'm okay with that. That's the biggest thing for me. I think that under discussion, after somebody seconds it, I think there should be something in there about minimizing the curb cut and I guess that's it, because you already addressed, I think it's in there, Kathy, about neighborhood compatibility. So that's opening it to the neighborhood, opening the corner, or not closing out the corner to the neighbor. So I'm okay with that. So I'll first the motion.
Do we have a second before going under discussion? Second by Carol. Under discussion? Anyone?
I think there should also be mention of the fence that is proposed along the outside of the property, and to consider using a fence material that is compatible with the style of the house.
Yeah, which is what they did. I mean,
and the neighborhood then.
More of a contemporary fence, because that's the direction that they're saying that they want to go.
if it was to replace an existing, there is a wood picket fence right out there now, so it's not like
the fence that they are proposing is a contemporary materiality as opposed to a wood picket fence.
And there'll be bushes in front of us, the dogs won't go down. So you won't even see the fence.
Chris is just asking for a fence that is more compatible with the neighborhood, full stop.
Okay, then the comment in the motion could be that the proposed fencing at the perimeter of the property should be compatible with the style that's proposed.
I'm not in favor of this perimeter fence, period. So I think that almost implies that we're giving our blessing to the location of the fence. I just think that
we're not asking you to do that.
Just saying, incorporate the most charming elements of the neighborhood, and open up the corner in a compatible, friendly way. I don't
I think
know
that
what
the
to say.
motion already did say that.
But
that Chris said.
I would not be in favor of you saying the
It wasn't me, it was Chris.
Oh, okay, but just saying, stated, whatever, as part of the motion to say that.
Okay, we'll scratch that then.
Right now, so you understand the
Hold on.
Okay,
We're just in the middle of this, and we're going to get sidetracked here before we get a motion out.
Okay.
Fencing material shall be more
I think he
compatible
gets
with the
it. I think
neighborhood.
he knows that we're looking for that. We don't need to belabor that right now. So, and we just won't put that comment in, if that's okay with you. And then did we not put the issue in about the curb cut? It should just be verified curb cut with transportation staff, I think.
And under discussion, yes, Gary, I think this is what you mean. Under discussion, the board would not like to comment on the modification at this point, as they feel the project has but has not met a threshold for such review.
Other side issues.
But we already did, the first comment in your motion was that
No, I
was
never
related to
mentioned
the
on the
mod.
mod. I just said that it was.
You said the board was
I would-
sympathetic to,
Not sympathetic to the mod, sympathetic to looking at corner lots, looking at them, giving it consideration, but not on this particular mod until this project has reached a certain level. That was my comment.
did you get that, Kathy? About not making, reserving our comments on the mod?
Okay, anything other than this discussion? I think we'll have to clean that one up a little bit, but we'll do that. Do you understand where we're coming from?
Yes, I hear everything that you're saying, and just so that you know, we did start this through the city process as a modification. We realized that it has to go through ARB for comment period, so I wasn't like totally unprepared for this level of scrutiny. The detailing and such, I always envisioned that we were going to add more and try and make it more charming and bring, add that stuff. So I was kind of hoping that, we would get into the fine-tuned detail. You coming back and saying it's, go back to ground zero, it's a little bit tough to swallow. But
But it's a bigger issue than just the detailing. It's the massing.
Yes, yeah. But again, I think there's
And the
things
plate heights.
that we could, if just reducing a plate height, if that was then what, if we're
That's
talking
not
about.
it.
Well, I know, but
I think if that's what you're thinking about, we're way off the mark.
Well,
okay, and I think what we're telling you is you have much bigger issues. If your project is so designed that it needs to come before the board, you have much bigger issues at hand right now. And you really need to do a redesign of your project that would entail these items that we told you. And that's what I'm trying to get across to you. Do you understand that?
yes, it's a tall order, I guess, because realizing that this site is what it is,
It is what it is for everyone. Each project has its own challenges, and we're not saying that yours is we're not taking it lightly either, but
well,
it just isn't meeting a threshold that we can.
And if you feel that you
positive.
could have done more detailing before you came in and addressed some of those things, regardless of the massing, then you shouldn't have come here without having addressed it, knowing that we were commenting on the architecture. So next time, do address those things, or we're going to comment on the fact that it's not coming together. So.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. You have those back? Okay.
So item number 3, 421 North Milford Street. Okay, Paul. Coming back to? Good. I'm thankful for that. 421 North Milford Street.
outside.
Okay, buddy, step forward. Oh, man. I know, but but you know, there was nothing there.
It is, but cute may not be the right word. Tell me cuteness. It's just, she was pissed. It was, no, this is not, it doesn't tell anybody anything. It doesn't give anybody anything.
Well, I thought that it had some very redeeming aspect. The roof, how it broke down, the story windows around it, the porch on it, all those things were taken away.
Okay, 421 North Millbush Street.
Hey guys.
How are you? We have 2 minutes. Yeah.
I think we should.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. Oh, it's a new one? Yes. Yes. Okay.
This goes to.
Oh, this is it the same property, or it's another half of the property?
Yeah, what we looked at previously was a development that went to this wall here. This is a development of the site and the addition of a storage building.
Okay. If for the record, you could just state your name and.
Britt Jewett, architect.
All right, go do it, Britt.
Okay, well this is pretty simple. We're putting a retractable gate in here to work within the sight lines and opt for setbacks, basically for traffic. And then here it breaks into a landscape element that's behind a wall with wrought iron, so that the plant material is seen through the sight wall here. This wall that pockets the gate, so that when the gate is open, it retracts into the wall here, and then it continues over and marries to the sight wall with a man gate that goes into the courtyard here. We've got 3 parking places with the van accessible portion next to a storage building. And we've altered the heights of the storage building and built some doors and a little east corner here with an ornamental light, so that as you look in, the portion of the building that you see has been developed with character that marries to the front of the building. The back becomes a little bit more utilitarian with a sliding door that doesn't impact the accessible loading area for the handicap spot.
Okay, so that's the only structure in the back there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So as you look at this side, it's over here. The pair of doors opening in this location, the sliding door here, a small window, and the chamfered corner with the light fixture, which is visible when the doors are open here. These are the pocketing walls. This is the open wall with landscape element behind.
And that's the door we're talking about? That's going to open?
The gates, correct, that retract inside of the walls there.
And that's where that little turn right is
That's
here?
correct.
Yeah, okay. And these are little scallops?
Right.
Okay.
Scallops under the wrought iron.
And that's the man gate right here. Seems
What
pretty
we're doing is
simple.
we're catching the water in a trough gutter along here. The lower portion, which is this, drains inside the water and comes through under the floor, and then we have another catch in the front of the building there, so the water doesn't go into the
Very good.
neighbor, and we just have a little overhang on this side that again picks up on the character that we developed for the front portion of the landscape.
Thanks, Bert. Does Derek, you need to make any comments? I see some green there. So.
Derek Eichelberger, Arcadia Studio. The landscape's pretty simple. We're proposing that the surface be decomposed granite with a stabilizer material in it, with the exception of this striped access portion, which would be concrete with color to match the decomposed granite. We've got little tile insets dividing the parking bays. The trees in front are acacia pendula. In here and in the back, it's the acacia cognata, the river wattle. And we've got 3 little dwarf citrus in front of the parking areas. And then it's all very drought-tolerant planting, as you can see. Euphorbia amac and different grasses. We've got pyrrhesthesia vine growing on the wall, and then different succulents and some kalanchoe and so forth.
Great.
That's it.
Thanks.
Just open it up, public comment. Seeing no one, bring that back to staff.
We have received a letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thanks very much. And then we take it back to the board for questions. Gary?
Do we have any pictures of the neighboring property?
Yes, these here. I'll come back to you then, Gary. Dawn?
Yeah, but you're bringing the building away from the two corners because you have a gutter that's going on the outside of the building, right? It looks like you're showing it in the site plan. It's going right up next to the property line.
No, the gutter actually is on top of the wall facing the and we're collecting. I don't have any detail. But we're collecting along a gutter that's right here on the wall.
So this is a parapet wall.
Correct.
Okay.
And the gutter's
Instead of an eave.
No eave.
Okay. So it's just so the drawing's so small that it's
that's
it's hard to see.
kind of dash line there.
And then you're gonna have to have the hardscape coming to the door as well for path of travel for ADA, I presume.
Probably.
So that'll probably. And then transportation was okay with the gate being this close to the property line.
Yeah, right here we have a eye level indicator and the length of the car, and then these angles based on.
No, I meant just the automatic gate being that close to the property line, not for line of sight purposes.
Yeah.
Because typically you have to come off the property and not assume that the gate's going to open automatically because forget your remote. You've got to override it by walking out of the car. And
yeah, Tracy went down and walked us through transportation, so
Okay.
they've signed off on
Okay.
the geometry of the walls and everything.
All right.
Great. Lee?
Mr. Chair,
Only question I have is the ADA striping. Doesn't it typically need to be contrasting? You said you're matching the.
The concrete itself would be.
So you're doing it concrete. I thought I heard you say concrete to match the
concrete.
DG.
The concrete and the DG will match, but the striping would be the standard blue type.
So you are going to stripe it. Okay, good.
Yeah, the field on the blue striping would match the other paving.
Okay, good.
Okay. Gary?
well, I do have a question. I was looking at the lot next door, and I noticed that there were some trumpet vines and some vine pockets. Were you proposing any way for right now that parking lot is in need of some green space, so I think by losing that fence we're going to lose all that green space for that parking lot. Are you proposing any way to have something attached onto that north wall of this?
There is a perimeter, Gary, immediately adjacent to it. We could
In this area here?
Yeah, that's probably the best we could do since it's right on the property line.
This fence is actually about a foot off the property line, and those trumpet vines are not coming out.
Okay.
So all that's remaining. It's just not on our property. It's right here.
Oh, it says to be removed, the note does.
Oh, is that what that says?
Yeah.
It's my neighbor's fence. I wasn't going to take it out. I'm sorry. That's an error. Sorry.
Okay. Carl? Chris? No? Comments? Gary?
Well, I think it's a good project.
It's a simple little deal. The only comment I would have is that I'd like to see some sort of landscaping on that expansive wall, or I'd also like to see some overhang. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the elevation, and it looks to me like there is no overhang on that north elevation. Is that correct? Or
yeah.
Yeah, we.
It's right on here.
Did we adjust that?
You did?
Parapet, and he's collecting water there and bringing it down. That's fine.
Okay. I prefer to see some sort of a detail on that side, and also where the wall is adjacent to the sidewalk. I think that it would be better if there was a space between the wall and the sidewalk, rather than have the wall directly on the sidewalk.
Okay. Dawn?
I don't have any comments. I like it.
Okay. Clay? No comments. Carol?
So, Gary, what expansive wall were you referring to? The one that is on the south?
It's the one that jogs for the gate and then it goes directly against the sidewalk.
Oh, you're talking this piece here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think since there isn't a lot of landscaping that the community benefits from, that centering the wall in the middle of the planter and sharing the landscape opportunity for both the inside. I would rather see more landscaping on the outside that really will benefit the neighborhood and have a smaller section on the inside where it's not seen as much. So I think in this case, really embellishing the landscape that would be seen from the community would be my general comment instead of really landscaping the parking area. Now, are you proposing some kind of apron, a solid material apron to keep the decomposed granite into your area, or
We
what?
will have to as part of the sliding function of that gate. So,
Right.
Yeah, that'll have to be.
And then there'll be some color-toned area. I mean, it'll be an embellished, an aesthetic. We'll look forward to seeing that next time, type of thing. Okay. Are you proposing your drive area to be a colored concrete?
No.
That's just the gray of
Standard gray.
the sidewalk. Okay, I think everything else is fine. It's just that my general comment is to really offer the neighborhood the majority of the landscaping available along the side.
Okay. Chris?
That the wall doesn't bother me so much. I mean, I think they did address some landscaping on the street side up near the gate. Perhaps that wall could be pushed back so there's at least maybe an 8-inch to a foot bed there, so you can get something at least at the base of that wall, and maybe it jogs back. I guess I'm kind of wondering what's on the west side of that wall. What are you abutting on the neighbor's property?
That's a good question.
You mean what's here?
Yes.
Is that concealed?
Building, I think there's a building on the property line there.
Yeah, that's their building. They're built straight to the property line with a 2-story elevation.
Okay.
It should be in the photos.
There's a little plant
Gotcha.
there.
Sorry, I just want to speak to I wanted to speak to the wall and Carol, your comment.
Let's go ahead and use this plan up here.
If you can point here for the camera. We have.
Just wanted to speak to your comment, Carol. This whole area gets a lot of sort of rough foot traffic and whatnot, and so we were trying to figure out the best way to soften the walls, and that's why we did the relief of the site wall with the ironwork. Normally I would probably just put a wall and then pull it back and then landscape it and whatnot. And we all talked about trying to have the plantings espalier through the ironwork just so that they didn't get so beat up. And that's why we left the ironwork in there. So we definitely thought about it. We were just trying to figure out a different way to have it be maintained in its best form. And it's been a real problem ever since we bought the building. It's just we have a lot of transient activity and whatnot. So we're trying to keep everything as lush as we can. And anyway, that's speaking to you.
There's certainly precedent around the city for walls built out to the sidewalks, like the Meridian Studio, for example, and many, many others.
I think, as I said, I'm not bothered by that. I think the fact that you do have the wrought iron up there and you'll have vines growing through that really helps to bring the landscape out to the sidewalk. My main concern is using DG in the parking space and having, again, this came up at the last meeting on another project, and I'm just worried about, especially in the wintertime with the mud, and how often will this parking area be used? Is it just for a special few? Is it for all your customers that come in? So I guess I question the DG.
We've had the same discussion ourselves internally, and there's minimal in and out. It's not a general use area, and Daryl felt very strong that he wanted to at least give it a try. If it doesn't work out, then we'll end up going to an asphalt or something like that.
Okay.
We thought aesthetically, it would be a much better solution.
Yeah, a little softer. Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. I think the big issue, I think that
the layout and everything is fine. I think I agree that when you get final or when you bring in the drawings for final, just provide us a detail through the gutter up at the end.
Actually, we're running a little late, had some technical problems here, but we have the sets of drawings that have details and things that we can show you to look at if you're inclined here. We have both.
Yeah, I would like to, if we could just move you guys along from here, because it's so small, the project. Are we able to?
This is for comments only. It still needs archaeological assessment, environmental review. So it can't get an approval today because it needs environmental review.
So it needs, but can we still send them on to consent though?
You can still send them on to consent.
Okay, but that would be my goal. Is if we send them on to consent, that with the direction and
just take into consideration the development plan approval findings. I do have that memo you need to make.
Okay. Now, before sending them on. Is that it? We'll make those findings now before sending them on.
I would just say the board should comment. Typically, the findings should be made during the preliminary approval stage. So if the board just comments in the motion that you're continuing to consent, that the board collectively feels that it's an okay project with the findings.
Finding, okay. And I'll just comment on I think the DG under the explanation that you guys had already is fine with me. You will need to address that walkway at some point. I'll leave that to you guys. On this discussion that you had here, I am comfortable with the fact that we have the exterior planting here and that you have the wrought iron and the espalier coming forward. I mean, generally, if you didn't have anything here at all, I would kind of lean on the other side, and I'd want you to consider bringing it back. But with the double that you're proposing and the amount proportionally, and the size of the project and everything, taking it all into consideration, I'm comfortable with the way it is. That the improvement is fine. So I'm comfortable with that. So I think we have. I think I'm open for a motion that could send this project on to consent, with maybe just a comment to here on the provide a detail through that gutter.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for an indefinite continuance to the consent calendar, and that the development approval findings can be made on consent, and that the board looks forward to seeing all the detailing, the appropriate detailing at the consent level.
Second. Second by Clay. And just under discussion, Michelle, we said that we could make development findings at consent, but we have to make it here, or we can say that we can make it at consent.
Generally, we prefer that you make them at the full board, but I'm just saying that's what I'd ask that it be included in the discussion at the full board if you do want to push this forward to consent.
Okay, so
my motion was that the board feels that development approval findings can be made on the consent level, and feels that this is an approvable project.
We feel comfortable with that.
Okay. One other question. The owner has been interested in trying to demolish the existing house at the back of the lot as a separate process, and we haven't been able to do that, and they said something to the effect, and I don't know, Michelle, if you know about this, that if ABR were to give us the okay, that we could split it. We needed ABR approval to demolish the house. I don't know if you can do that without the environmental also.
Are you on? Press.
So. No,
well, you're getting the word from us that you have an approvable project and that we're comfortable with the development. I think that's what they would be looking for.
Oh, okay.
And there's really nothing else we can do.
Mr. Chair, the staff just generally finds that once a project comes into your purview, that it's one complete project and it should be done as one complete project. If they pulled just a demo permit that without any plans for development, that would be two separate cases. So that's
I see. So you split it up. So maybe
the fact that historically he's allowed to demolish the house, and it isn't really tied to this project. If we decided to go forward with this project, we'd still be allowed to demolish the house. We thought maybe we'd be able to move forward with that part of it.
It's kind of out of our purview, but I think that what the building department is looking for is they're looking for the project to get to a point in our review that we're comfortable with the design, so that they're not allowing you to demo it, and then the project then just sits for 2 years because you have problems with design review. And that's not the case here, because we're saying that I wouldn't mind stating in the motion that the project is ready for preliminary approval, if that would help staff move it along.
Yeah.
That's the house we're talking about.
And again, it would be possible to demolish the house and just leave the lot. It isn't necessary to do any development with it.
I mean,
Get it out of there.
I think you can't put that authority in our hands.
Okay, I just thought the planning had told me it was. So
We can't take the authority to make an approval on the demo of the building with a verbal that you may want or not want to do with the approval that you receive here. That's outside of our purview.
Okay.
So what we're really here is we say you have a good project. As you can see, if we give approval to go ahead with this, it ostensibly means that we have no issue with the demo. And then you guys can do whatever you'd like with that, So I would say take this and go back to them and then say, look, they will fine with it.
You have to complete your environmental assessment. And then once that's done, you can...
Okay.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Against?
Under discussion.
No, there's no more discussion.
Yes, well, there is actually after you vote. On your motion,
okay.
On your motion, you didn't say anything about the sidewalk that you wanted connected from the ADA. Is that correct?
They know that.
We know that.
Yeah.
So you're going to add that in?
I don't need to bring that.
So motion passes. And this is just outside of the discussion, but I think they know that they'll do that.
You won't get a bill from fighting about it.
Okay. Take care, guys. All right. Okay. Take care. See you.
Yeah, they know it has to be the same concrete that they use on the spot.
Okay. 312 Rancheria Street.
He's not here yet.
A little ahead of schedule. We did call him. He said he was leaving now and on his way, so he should be here in a moment.
Okay.
So we're
Recess.
So the board will take a short recess before hearing 312 Rancheria Street. Thank you. I'd like to reopen the EBR for October 5th, 2009, starting item number 4, 312 Rancheria Street. Let's see if we
New glasses?
quickly we can.
Actually, I've had them for a while, but now I need them.
Trying to look smart. Just kidding.
I'd rather have good eyesight.
Good answer.
Okay, you state your name and presentation.
My name is Jose Luis Esparza. I'm the architect.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be the second review for this project. We've redesigned according to your comments. If you want to read the comments, I'll.
I don't have my comments in yet, but I do know.
Okay.
Thanks so much. And so let's see what we have there. Okay. Continued indefinitely to full board comments. Carry forward previous item number 7, which would have been, hang on a second, study moving the rear retaining wall in order to preserve the existing trees on the adjacent parcel. The board is not in support of the requested modification to allow the front entry porch to extend into the required 10-foot front setback, provide a better site plan which delineates hardscape, landscape, side walls, fencing, mailboxes, etc., relocate the electrical meters away from the street elevation, provide architectural variation to reduce massing, greater setbacks, varied wall finishes and roof intersections, provide covered entries, and landscaping, provide a more pedestrian-friendly landscape design and entrances. Okay. So let's say study moving the rear retaining wall in order to preserve the existing trees.
So we set it in 3 feet so that this line of trees will have a preserved.
So this is a 3-foot dimension. Do you mind if I mark on here?
No, currently.
3 feet.
And because of the new grading, this will only be a 2-foot high retaining wall. So
Okay.
Hopefully that'll also help the roots system.
These are all pittosporums I see here. Yeah.
Yes, and they're really tall.
Okay.
When I took photos, I couldn't even see this building because they were so thin. We've redesigned the units so that now we don't require a modification. Our front porch
Is behind?
is at the 10-foot setback.
Okay.
And behind.
Mm-hmm.
We've redesigned the driveway, and here I didn't print out the pattern. What we wanted to do is do a stamped pattern, for clarity. This is our open yard site plan, but this will have a stamped pattern, and then these are the planters that come out to the entries. As you can see, the entries are no longer set way back, and by the redesign, it creates a courtyard so that these two share this entry, and then this one has its own entry and it's open to this landscaped area. And then of course the front unit has the front porch, but then this one, this is a redesigned unit so that this is narrower. And one of the benefits of doing that is that now the entry isn't set way back, it's only a few feet, and we can get a 16-foot garage door on this garage, whereas the other ones are still 18.
Okay.
For the back out.
Okay. You have show us where your mailboxes are?
Well, yeah, we've set the electric meters on the side here, and then with Mark's experience, he on another project they've allowed him to do the individual meters at the units. So instead of having a bank of 6 gas meters, we're going to distribute them so that they're easily camouflaged and hidden.
Okay.
And then we do have landscape pockets for where we're going to place some nice sized trees along the edge of this driveway. And we do have a small landscape strip there at the entry.
Okay.
So I feel that that this is now again going to have some fairly nice landscape areas and
planning wise.
Opportunity for
What is this line that crosses this?
Well, this is delineating the driveway. I mean, we really don't want to see that line.
Okay, because this is that pattern.
Yeah.
This is the same pattern,
Right.
right? Okay.
But for parking purposes, we're showing it. So,
Okay.
You're gonna. This will continue to.
Okay.
And on the elevations, I try to give you an idea of where some of the tree opportunities. Where we have the 2 units, we can have a good sized tree. Where we have the second unit entry, we can have we have opportunities for some decorative trees. And then at the back where we have the last unit, of course we've got 15 or more feet of landscaped area back there, so there's extensive opportunities for trees. And then along the driveway we're going to have opportunities for some trees.
So this faces the street.
That's the street, yes. And this is the back, and then this is the major elevation driveway elevation. So you can see the front unit gets a small 16-foot garage doors, and we're trying to use a little bit of a design to the doors, to start off with, so that they look more like two separate doors than a single
one. Okay.
large garage door.
Get approved. And it looks like you're using all horizontals here, stucco,
Yes.
and then stucco all on the back.
Except for some of the elements that to make it stand out. And then these will have the horizontal siding as well. So wherever there's an architectural accent, we're going to use the siding. These are the stairwells coming up to the second floor. These will just be little bay windows. They project 6 inches.
These two.
Right. Stairwell, and stairwell.
Okay. Anything else? Let's have a quick look at the roof plan.
And we've really broken up the roof plan quite a bit. The front unit is its own design, and then we've coupled these two units so that this facade is at the same plate height, and then these two units have the same plate height, and then we've got this roof element, and then it drops, and this roof element, and it drops, and then the front unit. So we've really varied the roof lines so that you don't feel like the last design. I believe you felt that the roof line was too long of an element.
Okay, just let me look at some. So let's look at that upper story. Okay, so is that it, or you don't have colors and stuff to present or anything like that?
No, we don't. We're still waiting. With this concept, we're still waiting for.
This is a concept
them.
review continued. They still need to do a revised noise study and get a substantial conformance determination as the new architectural style.
Okay. So those are the little 6-inch build-outs that you're saying, or
Right. They're up here in the dining room, on the second floor. So that's where they reflect on the lower floor. Here, and then these are our stairwells where we have the lower roof, and then we'll have a little window seat, if you will, at that location, because from the elevation, this will look like an 8-foot plate, but it'll actually be raised seating area there at the stairwell.
okay, all right. Questions then? Well, bring it back to public. Anyone to
There's a letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Paula Westbury, and seeing no one else in the public, I'd bring it back to the board for questions. Gary, would you like me to come back to you, Gary?
No.
Okay.
I'm
Questions?
curious about this chimney right here that you have on the west elevation.
Where is
Where
this?
is it on the plan?
It's a second floor of the front unit.
What page is that?
It would be page 3, but you can also see it on 2. 2 is the major plan, or the composite.
On 3, isn't the stairs on the back, on the south elevation? And the fireplace is...
No, that's on the front. So here's the front porch. So that's first you see the stairwell.
Oh, the stairs on the front unit are on the front and not the other unit.
Right. They're very different unit than the rest.
Okay. There it is. Okay.
Yeah. So what you're seeing is this shed roof coming down, and then behind that you see the chimney, and then in the way behind is this double chimney for the other units.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I had one
Thanks, Dawn.
question.
Yes, Dawn.
Was there some reason why you couldn't come out a little bit more on that upper level cantilever? Because that cantilever can't add floor area anyway. You don't have a line drawn designating where your floor has to stop, but is there some reason, since it's an architectural element, that you can't come out a foot? Or
I believe that we can come out
up to 2 feet.
One third, right, up to 2 feet. So we just didn't want it to feel like we were adding square footage, but if the board feels that a foot or 18 inches would be favorable, would be.
You know what? I just thought of something. It's
so that that it really punches out.
You know what? I'm already seeing. I'll
Different
reserve my
material.
comment, but I'm already seeing that the new. I'll just tell you during comments.
Clay. Chris.
See, I guess I'm looking at these little cutouts on the north side of the driveway. And you have two of them, one in front of each doorway, I guess.
Yes.
Is there a reason that whole area can't be a planter?
We do need back out for these garage doors. The way I placed them was that this comes out and stops there and then moves out.
Okay.
So where the opportunity is really between the, where we don't have any garage space.
Mm-hmm. And where there isn't a pop out, what's the distance there from the edge of the driveway to the wall?
We have a 12-inch planter there.
Okay.
So it'll be more of a vine, decorative element than substantial. There is opportunity, especially between, say, here to bring it out a little bit more, but we were trying to keep it nice and clean and just have where the major ones, where we could do major.
Okay. And while we're looking at this, actually, can you turn to the next page? Yeah, is there any reason these can't be a little larger? I mean, I think it sounded like you were proposing to have trees put in there, which wouldn't give you enough room for a tree. Is there any way to bring that out?
Yeah, we could probably bring these out another 18 inches.
Okay. That
Again,
might be...
It's where
that's
this
kinda
one backs out and then comes out. That's...
Okay.
We're trying to make sure
that might just give you enough opportunity to put a tree in that space if that's what you were hoping for.
Yeah, I did look at that, and we have about 18 inches that we could bring those out.
Okay. That's all for questions.
Thanks. Paul? No questions. Comments?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm finding that the general massing is okay. But what I'm having a little trouble with is the monotony of the building and the repetition of the architectural features. And I just think that there needs to be some study of some different architectural elements for the cantilevered elements of the project. And that would include the fenestration, that they're just not mirrored, that the fenestration is always the same pattern. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. Dawn?
I like it, Jose. I think you've definitely addressed all the concerns that we had, and I always look at these projects and think, would I live here? And I would live here, And I think it's nice, and I think the only two comments that I have for you is on the south elevation where you have the little cantilever. It'd be nice to see that not be so narrow, not 6 inches, a little more. But the problem that you have now with the new interpretation of architectural elements cantilevering over is that you can't have any framing or anything that extends out into the setback that's under 36 inches from the finished floor of the second level. So these little elements that you have that are going down to the floor, they got to go. Not even a corbel can go underneath there. So that means that if I'm making the suggestion of which I like the projection being a foot, but if that's your egress window, then you've got an issue because, you may have an issue. Just keep in mind that you have that new rule where no framing can go below 36 inches.
Okay.
That extends out into the setback.
I'll look into that.
But at this point, you're 6 inches, a foot. You still got the issue that you have to deal with. So I think that's something that you can deal with as you go through the project because you're still in conceptual. And then the only other thing is there was a fireplace that cantilevers out, and because it's a masonry fireplace, it looks a little odd that it's being supported by the cantilever portion. It's at the front unit. In that living room. If you could set that fireplace back so that it didn't look quite so heavy from the street, I think that might look a little more believable.
Or
Right there.
if it aligned outside of the cantilevered element,
Exactly.
you would be better off. So if you get that flue to turn and go up here, you'd be much better off.
And of course, this is where I'm talking about here, that you have the issue, you can't do that. So that's it for me.
Thanks. Chris? You. Yeah. You got yours.
No, I had questions.
Question. Comment. So that's right.
I'll comment while we're on this sheet quickly. I usually don't on architecture, but I'm just noticing a few little, as far as these two windows here and these two, to me it just looks a little awkward that one is slightly higher. I know your finished floor elevations are probably changing there, but the driveway itself probably doesn't have those step downs, and just looking up at it, and I think it happens here also. Yes. That just struck me as slightly awkward, so I'll just bring that to your attention. Can we go back to the site plan, please, Chris? Let's see this. I guess kind of in the same realm that we were talking in questions, I would encourage you to use as much planter here as possible. I mean, I know you need to be able to back out, but look for opportunities to vary this line a little bit more and create a little bit more in the way of planter pockets. It doesn't just have to be for a tree, but maybe a shrub just to help break up that long linear line. Sort of having a problem with this line here. I never like to see long straight lines go all the way back to the back of the property. So if there's some way to break that up, it says permeable concrete here. Are you leaning towards pavers, or do you know for the driveway element yet?
We were going to just go with concrete, permeable concrete.
Permeable concrete.
And then this would be a sandstone pattern stamped concrete.
Okay, a similar color?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I would encourage you to find some way to vary this line a little bit, the line that goes between, your walkways and your driveway. And then, as we discussed, I would encourage you to make these planters a little bit larger, if indeed you are going to try to put a tree in that space. Other than that, I think it looks good.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Clay? Okay, Paul?
There's two items. One is that I mildly disagree
with Gary in the sense that the monotony or the repetitiveness, because it's a pattern, because of the type of housing it is fine, because there's enough variety happening in all the different roof pop-ups. So that doesn't bother me. I agree with Chris in the sense that if the fascia line is the same, the window header should be the same. So the window header shouldn't be going up and down. The one other comment that Don made about the fireplace and cantilevered, very true. And also, it doesn't need to be as wide since it is one flue of a fireplace. So anything you can do to minimize the actual bulkiness of the chimney would be appreciative.
Thanks, Paul. And I agree that's a good solution, is to make the header height. The header height's the same, whereas the sills, I think, could be different levels. That's what you inferred, right, Paul?
I would actually say the header and the sill should be the same.
Okay.
It doesn't matter between one bathroom and the next.
Slightly different. Yeah.
If the fascia across the top and the gutter line is the same, then the window
should be the same down below.
Okay. I think that's a good one. I agree with Chris on the driveway. I think this straight line, and it's particularly, this where you come in and you get this driveway, this arc hitting this point here. It just shows up that they don't live well together, the driveway and the walkway, and you really need some kind of blend so that they kind of marry well together. So anything you can do to make that straight line not have that sharp edge might be a good thing. So if you could say that, the chimney again, bring it off of the visual cantilevered portion. That really would be the answer. The planters here, make them as wide as you can. The build-out situation, I really wouldn't want to see much more mass, but I think that the 6 inches is really minimal, and I would say that you should build that wall out to about at least 8 inches or 10 inches. I'm not sure going all the way to 12 is required, but 6 is very, very short. So if you just give it a little bit more, and then bring the window back there too, so that you don't have this framing out before the window, I think that would be a way to go. Now, on the blandness that Gary was talking about, I see the point that Gary is making, but I think that there's one other dimension that can help that here is that you haven't introduced colors yet. And, you can use color in a good way where you don't have that same blandness all the way across, and you can have a little rhythm going with the color. So I think that may be a good solution to try, and instead of using massing to try and break it up, if you can use the color, and that could help. And it could even go for, the shutters could be different colors, something like that, or you come up with 2 styles of shutters, and and then you play that off against one another in 2 different. So just little things like that to help with the blandness. There is an issue with it, but there are simple solutions that you can use within this design. Generally, I think the designs come a real long way, and it's right there. I think it's just to just do these little things now. Okay. So we have these few items here. Anybody like to make a motion, or should I just read the items back off again? So this would come back here, indefinite continuance. Does it have indefinite continuous back to full board with the comments that the project is certainly going in the right direction, and would like the applicant to revise the following areas. Adjacent, where the plate heights of walls are the same, make the headers of the windows and sills, same heights also. And the driveway, find a more compatible intersection between the driveway surface and the pedestrian walkway surface to alleviate the long, straight visual line of the 2 surfaces of the meeting of. I'm sorry. That's okay. Relocate the chimney closest to the street elevation, so that the alignment is not over the cantilevered portion of the 2nd floor. Increase the planters at the garage doors to the maximum depth. Study building out the 2nd floor gable windows to 8 or 10 inches out from the face of the walls. Study options that can relieve the monotony of the pattern of the massing, and the board suggests using color as one option, and maybe different stylized shutters, etc. But you can find others. Okay, do I have a first? Chris for first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn. Under discussion.
Just that the last comment you made, you said study breaking up the massing, but I don't have a problem with the massing, so I think that should just read that the applicant to look for ways of individualizing the units by possibly a different shutter design or in colors, something like that. Nothing that says anything about breaking up the mass.
Correct. Very good. So we have a second?
I seconded it.
Oh, you first, second. Okay, any other things under discussion? No? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carries. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Very good. And we're down to the last one now. Item number 5, 421 East Quarter Street. Ka-ching! Thanks for picking up on that, Don. I didn't mean massing.
I know.
I was just getting all confused with the line. The whole line of the driveway, and my wording was like, ugh.
The only reason I was laughing about your sentence is because it kept going on and on.
Yeah, I don't know when to stop. It's like, shut up already, you know? Jeez, just shorten it and just...
You have to fill out a slip and explain the changes.
Okay.
It's nothing major.
I just brought it in.
That's okay.
Okay, if you can state your name for the
Hi.
record and
make your presentation.
Okay, my name is Mark Winke, architect.
Chris Gilliland, landscape architect.
Thanks. We'll make a quick run through of the minutes here. Board feels that the project as proposed is adding to the starkness of the Quarter Street elevation and requests the applicant study the following: a more celebrated entry paseo, a central element to the building to break down the overall scale, circular window forms for compatibility with the building's architectural style, the plant-on plaster window sills for compatibility, the shed roof element at the upper level porch above the main paseo entry facing the southeast, the detailing of the upper level east facing apartment balcony, the placement, proportion and sizes of all the windows on the south elevation. Would like to see subtle massaging of the building elements such as staircase, stepping, parapet walls, etc. that would enhance the character of the building's architecture. Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Everyone?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, this front page shows the new front elevation on Coda Street. And what I have in the package here is basically the same thing, showing the breakup of the massing, and the floor plan is revised and everything else. And there's two options, one with and one without this entry portico, which I'll explain later, being, and I can show you in 3D, a feature that kind of shows the entryway to the apartments, maybe in a little better light, and creates a semi-public, semi-private area behind that arch, whereas before the other option is basically open, looks nice also, but basically is open, and this kind of calls that this is the apartments. This is how you come into the apartments. So that's the facade. As you can see from this first elevation, which we'll actually see again later, it steps up from the side, which is the parking lot, to the city's own parking lot. This is the Coda Street. There's a section in front that's one story. That steps back. That mass has a quintessential proportional piece to it. This piece actually is very reminiscent of the building behind here that we're designing, so it kind of wraps around. And then the massing kind of steps up. That's the elevator tower back beyond. And as you can tell, this is kind of nicely animated. It connects to the old existing building in a way that's a lower form here, so letting some light in. Kind of an animated, fun piece here that's just a post, if you will, and an arch that reminiscent of some of the other arches. I'll turn real fast to the overall elevation of the street to continue this conversation. If you remember, the existing building is that form, has a little entry piece in the corner. It has a series of these kind of archetypes, these walls with arches in them, and we're kind of playing with the same motif, but maybe in a much more straightforward architectural, Santa Barbara colonial Mission Revival style of the architecture than the original existing building to the left. Still the same materials, stucco and tile roofs and the like. Let's go back to this. So really what's happening in the front facade, everything is pretty much the same as you saw it last time, parking in the rear of the paseos through here. The front facade cuts back in this location. You have stairs up to the middle, which actually aren't accessed with the stairs that go up to the second story piece. At that point, it becomes like a little ante-room outside. You can then enter, which basically is a covered porch, which allows a separation from the ramp that comes up from the sidewalk to get up. This is in the floodplain up about 2.5, 3 feet to the main entry to the daycare. This is all the daycare center. And this is all open area in the back to the 2 other units. And the side over here has a covered porch area to create shaded areas for the kids when they go outside. Also has areas around the outside to kind of play in and out of these forms. Also has this is just a designation for outdoor area. The landscape plan shows a much more illustrative plan for that area. And then these are the floor plans. And this, you'll notice that the second floor balcony is no longer on the side here where the stairs were. It's actually in the front, which is very reminiscent of what's happening in the adjacent building. And if you remember, the Housing Authority project across the street that we're doing also has a covered porch area with trellises there. So I think it'll be very contiguous to the neighborhood when it's all complete. It also has a porch on this side, which overlooks the west half of the property in there. That shows the roof plan where we are taking the solar panels and wrapping them into flat roof sections around the side there. And this is where the 2 options come up. Here's option, call it option 1 if you will, but this is called the open forecourt option. This one does not have a wall here. Basically, you can see right into the stairs and into the area in the side here, which is kind of a private forecourt. It's also an area that you can sit outside and eat, both from the staff level here and from the people that live in these sections, and maybe the people that work in the daycare center can hang out in that forecourt and eat. That shows the kind of view of it from the southeast corner, more alluding to that courtyard. But I think you can start to see how it really nicely steps up and down, and the proportions are really nice. Please forgive the computer graphics for the trees and stuff, but you get the idea. That's the planning area.
They're not dead.
They're not that static. And this one is the same idea. It's also, but this shows the wall being dragged across to create an opening arch. And again, like I said, it creates a separation between the public and private area. It creates an entry that says this is the apartments. It creates some animation that actually is kind of fun to the street, to the public, and to celebrate the front entry piece. At that point, you can either come in, I should have referred to this in the plan, but come in and go upstairs to your unit, come in, go around the stairs and go to your unit to below, or come in, go around into the courtyard area, sit and relax, or go to get your mailbox and your paper and kind of hang out in kind of an ante-room space outside. So we kind of think that they're both nice, but this one has some extra pieces that actually might add to it. We glorified the entry stairs area with some solid, maybe some rock formation that comes up along the corners of the central walkway up to the front area. These kind of show you a view from, I guess it says east and west down the street. I think really nicely shows how it steps up in this corner, has a various playfulness of the building masses. This one comes from the other direction, looking back. These you didn't have a problem with last time, as we have fixed it. It's just a very simple building. Matches the kind of simpleness of the building next door, but also has these forms that are popped up. And as you notice here, a really large tree that we had been able to plant from the last time we were here, or at least propose in this section here. This is option 1 that shows the open area in a 3D view. Again, this is the same kind of view, slightly off to the side, showing the wall that comes down in steps, creating the archway and creating a private area here. Those double arches can take you to the first floor unit areas or into the building next door. And it kind of shows you the playfulness of all the pieces, articulation of very simple archetypal elements that we see all around Santa Barbara, but also kind of graphic forms and playfulness at some of the corners. Very simply done. A couple of window boxes on the front section here where the pieces overlap. Good place to put some color on the building and some playfulness facing the south. Potentially beating a dead horse here, but here's more of the front area showing more close-up pieces, probably articulating the splayed walls of this corner buttress with some kind of a decorative mosaic type tile cap of some sort. Here are the elevations of the same set pieces, like I referred to last time. The new sections. And the landscape.
Yeah. Okay. So the change in landscape will really only pertain to the front that that's being revised,
So
right?
this was all the same, and I asked Chris and I, we worked on a larger plan. It basically gave us a little more landscaping, a little more playfulness in the front here, maybe a vine on that one wall. There's a double window section next to the arch, and then landscaping all across here, separating the building from the play area, from the outdoor area there.
Great.
Anything else? Oh, and of course that, which is the same as before.
Excellent. So, seeing no one from the public, bring it. I'll bring back to staff.
There's one letter of opposition from Ms. Paula Westbury.
Thank you. And then bring back to the board for questions. Keith? No question. Gary? Dawn?
No.
Chris? No. Paul? No. Clay? Comments? Keith?
I'll weigh in on the options. I like the closed forecourt. I think that makes a nice transition from the street. And I think the project looks really good and is ready for preliminary approval.
Gary?
I'll echo those same comments. I like how it ties into the existing building with the arches and how they distinguish the uses of the building.
Very good. Dawn?
I love the changes that you've made, Mark, and I'm really happy with the project now. I just think that everything is appropriate and the massing is great, and I'll let you, I'm impartial on the enclosed or the unenclosed courtyard. I like aspects of both of them. The one with the separation has this kind of lighthouse motif that I love lighthouses. But I'll let you decide. There's something I like about the openness too, and I like the fact that those little elements with the yellow ceramic balls are just so nice, just in and of themselves, without the other one as well. But like I said, I'll let you make up your mind on that.
Paul? Yep.
Two minor comments. One, looking at the perspectives between the different ones, it seemed, I'm just double checking that these two roof pitches are the same because they look a little bit flatter. This looks like it wants to be a little higher in roof pitch. So it just, yeah, that's what I was figuring too. But it just looks at times between all the different drawings, and then also between the elevations, it looked like the window box was a little on the small side, or maybe the window was on the small side. It looks like it could. I mean, it's really minor, but it could be a little bit on the wider side. In certain images, I'm thinking that the window box seems a little bit too petite. But other than that, I agree it's ready for preliminary.
Thanks. Clay?
Mr. Chair, I'll just weigh in on the wall or no wall in front. I think it adds a nice layering effect to the facade and creates some nice indoor and outdoor spaces, so I prefer that one. I'm also extremely pleased to see that some of our comments were finally addressed with the entry and the ramps. I think, Mark, you finally addressed some of the major concerns the board was having at the entry to the daycare, at least mine. I've been saying it every meeting, so I'm really happy to see this revision. I think the massing's done really well.
Thanks. And for me, likewise, I really think it's a great step. I mean, you've kind of solved the big problem that everybody was finding all along. In terms of the two options that you have, I certainly think that the wall option is the one that strongest helps this type of entry that you're using, because once you come here, it kind of makes you have to think. And so I think that doing it this way, where the entry goes there, the wall is definitely the direction to take. So I really like that. I think it's ready for preliminary. I think all the changes that you've made in terms of the massing really, really helps. Some things when you come back for detailing I'd like to make is that first is that this is the ramp where you go in here. It's the two little things, the long wall, and these are the two entries that you go in. And if it's just the detailing of the stone at the corner, just so a pedestrian can signal that that's going in, as opposed to it that you're waiting just to see a gap, any little detailing that you could make here with these posts or balls or whatever it is would help. Likewise, it would do it here for a person because they really have to look at the blank wall and then go up. So any little thing that you could do there would help. Also, on the balconies on the other side, it looks like you see the edge of the red floor tiling on the balconies. And maybe if you just had like a tile that you just saw the edge right here, that could be a nice little touch instead of having the blank wall. Some nice brackets to the thing. I knew the computer was just quickly throwing up something. And then the one thing is, I think that this is fine as it is, and I'm totally happy if you just went ahead. But I felt that something, without getting too elaborate or spending too much money, if you could look at that and come up with something that maybe a little bit more, because it is the highest element in the whole project, and not make it as so utilitarian and bland. Any little thing you could do there to kind of give it a little bit of thing would be a nice help. But otherwise, I think we're ready to go to preliminary. Okay, so
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for preliminary approval. Then the board finds that the option with the more enclosed forecourt is preferable, and
it's okay with the
and what
and how do we see this, Michelle? That it's we're approving it
Consistent with the
Consider-
hearing officer resolution.
consistent with the staff hearing officer's resolution number 07009.
all right. Yes. Continued indefinitely.
Preliminary, back to full board. Yeah. So we have a first, second by Clay. Under discussion, any items? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, Christine and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done. Yeah. And with that, that's the last item of the evening. Good night, Santa Barbara, and see you in 2 weeks. Thanks. Bye-bye.